everybody, welcome back for some more Escape from Tarkov. As you can see, I'm currently not in a raid. That's because we're going to be talking about building efficient kits for players that might be new to the game or might be intermediate level players that could be struggling because they're spending too much money on the wrong thing and should kind of readjust their focus, or suggesting builds to get new players started where they're not wearing the greatest gear, but they're using gear good enough of killing players with class 5 armor and absorbing a little bit of damage. So this idea has been brewing in my mind for the last couple weeks. If you've been watching my stream, I was messing around with insurance scam builds, basically building builds that were so bad sale value that players didn't want to take them when you got killed, but not so bad where you couldn't kill anybody, so you'd frequently get your gear back from insurance returns. Now, I didn't end up making a video on that subject just yet because I think here with the efficiency builds, I'm applying some of the knowledge that I learned there, and these builds, you will get a significant portion of your kit back via insurance. For example, I ran 4 efficiency kits while I was doing some testing during my live stream, and I got every chest rig, every helmet, and armor. Well, I guess it's the chest rig armor combo. I got all of them back, as well as 3 different weapons. Twice I was killed by PMCs, and another time I was killed by a scav guard. So let me talk about what the efficiency kit basically is. It's going to allow you to have a moderate level of armor protection, class 3. It's going to have weapons that can have the capability of killing players with class 5 body armor. I want to do that because most players at endgame are going to be running Gen 4 high mobilities, possibly fast MTs, maybe even Alton helmets, and I want the player to be able to use the rounds capable of killing them with a reasonable amount of shots. I think for new players and intermediate players, the main issue that people have with the inability of killing other players is simply due to the wrong ammunition. Now, the thing about ammunition is it's very expensive, but it's worth using because you definitely want to be able to get those one-tap headshots regardless of what they're wearing. I mean, obviously a kill a face shield is an exception, but you kind of get the idea. There's going to be a huge dichotomy here with what I'm saying. Tarkov is very much a situational game, so yes, I'll probably expect certain things in the comments, but what if this person was wearing that? What if you suggested to do this? What if the enemy thought that? I understand. Tarkov is a very complex game, and I cannot cover all the scenarios. But with this kit, I guarantee that it will be a great starting point to build towards building a better kit if you start surviving your raids. This is a baseline efficiency kit that is going to be good for your first raid after you die, so you're not going to be spending a ridiculous amount of money if you die again, but you're going to be put in the position where you can kill heavily armed players and make out with a few dollars. That's the idea. So we're going to be basing this kit off of a few basic principles. We want class 3 body armor, we want health and medical supplies, we want a chest rig capable of holding magazines, and we also want armor piercing rounds. So let's get to it. The first part of this kit is what I call base 90. This is a 90,000 ruble kit that is going to give you the basics of what you need to survive your raids. Let's kick over to Ragman. We're going to start off by buying the 6B15 body armor. This is a chest rig body armor combo. You cannot wear body armor under this, which is why it is a great insurance item. You will almost always get this back unless you get killed by somebody who has nothing at all. The reason is it takes up just too many slots in a backpack that's worth taking, and a person cannot drop their chest rig or their tactical rig and put it on. They would have to sacrifice their own body armor. So it typically gets left behind, which makes it great if you're going to be running these efficiency kits. We're also going to be running the SSH-68 helmet for the same reason. This thing, you're going to be getting back more than any other helmet from insurance returns, and trust me, a class 3 helmet with a high ricochet chance is better than no helmet at all. Even rounds that have a higher penetration rate that could go through these helmets still have a chance of deflecting, keeping you alive in the fight due to the high ricochet chance, and it is very cheap. One of the most common helmets in the game because of its value and the ricochet chance, not necessarily just for the class. So we definitely want to pick one of these. Now, moving over to meds. I've been getting a lot of questions on this. Why do I use a car med? Well, I can buy a car med, 2 AI2s, and 1 pack of painkillers for the same price as 1 IFAK personal tactical kit. Don't get me wrong, IFAKs are amazing 1-slot value items, But if you want to save a little money, you can cover some bases by just going with the car. And you only need to get level 1 therapist. You don't even have to do anything, just a quest to unlock the car to get access to this. This is a really efficient way of actually surviving and using medication. The AI2 has the fastest application time, and because it's cheap, you're not going to be burning your CarMed or IFAKs nearly as fast. You're going to be keeping these for either really intense situations or fixing bleeds. It saves you a lot of money if you decide to use IFAKs as well. A cool thing about this as well is if you use this as your combat pain or combat medication, it's going to prioritize the limbs that have the lowest HP over anything else, where the CarMed might prioritize a bleed. Now in the application time, you might end up losing that limb, where with the AI2, you'll keep it alive. Also, if you get multiple bleeds on you at the same time, this can help sort of restore a limb that you would otherwise lose before you start fixing the bleeds. So bringing 2 of them is great. So now that we have the armor and our medication, let's go talk about the weapons. So we want weapons that are capable of killing class 5 individuals. Now obviously there's a couple good rounds for this. We have some sitting in my stash. The M995 round, in my opinion, is probably the most reliable round in Escape from Tarkov right now. Now, I understand that this is not accessible to every single player in the game for its base price right away, but if you go to the flea market, you can see that people are selling M995 for almost the exact same price that Peacekeeper sells it for. So even if you're a brand new person to the game, you can definitely use M995 straight away. And one of the best weapons that you can buy that uses M995 to start is an ADAR. This thing is a great starter weapon for efficiency kits because it can be upgraded into an M4 if you just exchange all these attachments and buy an M4 lower receiver. Even if you have one successful raid, you only have to make 20 to 30,000 rubles before you can actually upgrade this thing to an M4. Although it's not required, you can do so. And you can slowly add upgrades to this weapon, like a 30,000 ruble suppressor from the flea market, for example, after each successful raid. So using M995, in my opinion, is a good option, but it's not the only one. We all obviously have the Vepr Hunter. This is probably your second best, or well, it depends on personal opinion. I like the ADAR. Some people would prefer the Vepr Hunter, but this thing is awesome for early level players and for efficiency kits. The reason behind that is you always want to check the price for these weapons from the flea market. As you can see, we could pick one up for under 35,000 rubles. And the same thing can be said for the ADAR. When I was doing this challenge, I was able to buy an ADAR for 19,000 rubles on the flea market. Tonight, as you can see, you could pick one up for 25,000 rubles. That is dirt cheap. So you definitely want to be taking a look at the flea market when you're wanting to buy these efficiency guns so you can shave a couple dollars. So of course, I'll probably just buy the 2,500 ruble gun. Now, in terms of optics, we do have a couple choices. You could go with a red dot on your ADAR, but if you wanted something a little bit different, you can utilize a scope that not too many people actually use. This is an 18,000 ruble 2.5 scope called the Prism Compact, or the Prism Scope. Buy the scope, you can get the combat mount right here, or a compact mount right here. And you are already looking at pretty kick-ass DMR. You now have a mid-range optic M995 weapon capable of one-tapping even Alton face shields, and you haven't even really spent too much money yet. Now the goal for these kits is to stay roughly under 200,000 rubles. Now if your armor and your medication already costing 90,000 rubles, we just spent 43,000 rubles on our weapon and our optic. So that leaves us a little bit of cash for ammunition. So this is going to cost us roughly 8,500 rubles, give or take. So that leaves us with just about 45,000 rubles that we could spend on ammunition. So I'm going to go down to the dollars. I want to see how much USD is roughly 45,000. So we want to be going for about, we have about 400 USD that we can spare on ammunition. So let's go over, find M995, and see how much we can buy. So we're looking at 120 rounds. Let's purchase that. So we got our 4 magazines. We got 120 rounds of M995. So we just use 60. And there's 120 rounds. So as you can see, we now have an Adar with a 2.5 scope, class 3 body armor, and a decent med setup, all for under 200,000 rubles. This weapon is capable of killing players with ult and face shields. Class 5 body armor, it's going to eat through it like it's nothing. You're on an equal playing field, but you're not spending nearly as much. Now again, this is going to be a little bit more challenging than just prey and spraying an M4, but if you are taking it slow or you go for headshots, this thing is going to dominate. Now obviously, you're going to be wondering, but Deadly, where's the backpack? So there's definitely some sacrifices here. You could spend your money on M856A1, go with a cheaper round and buy yourself a backpack, or go with a different weapon option. I'm not saying that the Vepr Hunter and the Adar are your only choices here. You can even spend money on an AK-74M, for example, lightly modify it and use BS rounds purchased from the flea market or from Prap War. Again, BS rounds are fairly expensive, so as you can see within the 200,000 budget, you're going to be working with an M4 that, you know, might not be the best at the start. You might use semi-automatic, but after a raid or two, if you survive, you just simply reinvest those resources into your kit, and you can eventually build something that's really respectable. And down the road, if you were to lose this kit and die, you're not going to be as bummed out because you know you got your value out of using this gear. That's important about the efficiency. It's not just about the first kit. It's about building up to something that is really powerful, with starting with something that is capable of killing anybody. Now, obviously, the Adar is just an example here. You can go with a Vepr Hunter, put a Tactical Tula 01 and a PK06 for roughly 40,000 rubles, depending on the flea market price. You can buy 120 rounds of M80, which has 45 pen, very comparable to the 7.62x39 BP round, capable of definitely going through class 5 body armor, maybe not as cleanly as some other rounds of the game like the M62, M61, or M995, but it can definitely get the job done, especially with those 10-round magazines. So these are just some examples. Like with the AK-74 of BS, you can also go AK-101 with a PSO scope. You can even go Mosin with a secondary of some kind. The sky is the limit. The general idea is keeping things around 200,000 to 250,000 rubles. And if you do that, regardless of how you actually go about doing it, I think you're going to be starting to see things turn around for your wallet, and you can start building up your kits very similar to Rags to Riches. I know I've done that in the past on my stream and on YouTube, and I know other content creators have as well. It's the idea where you start with nothing and you work and modify as you find and collect. It's like a mini hardcore challenge. But if you kind of just step it up a little bit, apply the base 90 kit like you're seeing here, you can start working towards getting some really cool modified weapons without feeling the guilt whenever you actually make a mistake and die. It happens to all of us, but the worst feeling in the game, for me at least, is building and spending like 10-15 minutes on a brand new kit only to step into the raid and getting shot in the head instantly with a Mosin. I get it, it sucks. If you decide to move in this direction, I promise you that pain is going to be a little bit easier to handle. And I think it's also going to ensure that you're going to be able to be competitive against other high tier players. Well, I think you guys have heard me lecture enough. The next video is going to be showing you guys what I can do with one of these kits, starting with the base 90 setup, building an Adar very similar to the one that you've seen in this video, and then taking that raid by raid and eventually ending up with a fully modified M4 with class 5 body armor. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in a couple days for the next video, and be sure to check out the live streams Monday through Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.